And we're going to play Foldit today. This will be puzzle 1435, extra large monomer design. I'm just going to go announce in the Foldit chat that I'm live. And make sure I have a stream. Yes, I do. I can see the stream. Excellent. Okay, so working on this extra large monomer design puzzle. I'm working from a sketch. This is what you see on the screen right now is a screen from the PDB, the Protein Data Bank, which is at rcsb.org, and it's got thousands of solved proteins in it that you can look at the shapes of them in these ribbon diagrams. And I've picked out one that I'm going to emulate. I can't copy it exactly because the native protein does not have what Foldit would consider ideal loops, but I'm going to talk about how I will convert it to use Foldit's ideal loops in the design puzzle. At least I'm going to try. So this protein is a little beta sandwich. It's a sandwich made of beta sheets. It's got 3 sheets here in the front, 4 sheets in the back, and it's called a fibronectin type 3 domain. I had never heard of that until I stumbled across it in the PDB. And I made a model of this in an earlier design puzzle. And so I'm going to be working both from this diagram and also a little bit from that prior puzzle. Let me just pull that up so you can see. This is the one that I designed in puzzle 1416. So I'll be looking at that as a model as well, but I'm going to make it a little bit bigger this time. This one from 1416 was a little smaller than the native protein, so I'm going to try and make it a little bit bigger today. Let's see, I want to talk a little bit about how this protein is put together. The first segment is down here in the blue, dark blue, and there's more of this diagram. There are 4 copies of this domain in this diagram. That's what they had in the crystal. And the colors run from blue to red. But we're only looking at 1 copy, so the colors just run from blue to white. Let me zoom in there. Okay, so the front sheet starts down here in the lower left. I've got a sheet going up, a little short loop here. I'll be able to do that with a Foldit ideal sheet loop. Sheet comes down, and then there's this long loop that travels from the front sheet of the sandwich underneath to the back sheet. And there are no long loops like that in Foldit's library of ideal loops. So what I'm going to do is put a short helix right there. I'm going to have a very short ideal sheet to helix loop here. The helix is going to travel from the front sheet to the back sheet, and then another short Foldit ideal loop there. Then I've got a sheet pair going up and coming down. Again, it's joined by a very short loop. I should be able to do that with a Foldit ideal loop. And then there's another one of these long loops that travels from the back sheet to the front sheet. And I'm going to put a short helix in there as well. Let's see, I have someone asking about chat. Gertch is watching. Hi, Gertch, glad to have you. It says it won't let you talk in the Twitch chat. So in order to talk in Twitch chat, you do need to make a Twitch account, which is free. And once you've got that account, you'll be able to chat in the Twitch chat. Until then, you'll just be limited to the Foldit chat, which I'll also be watching. So you can chat either place. As Mortier is here. Hello, nice to see you. And if you, I made my Twitch account with the same username as my Foldit account, so you can tell that it's me. Some people like to have the same name over there. Some people want a different name. Either way is fine. Okay, looking back at the protein, so I'm going to put a short helix in where this long loop is. Then there's a sheet going up the front side, and then one more long loop joining from the front sheet, sort of diagonally across the top to the back sheet, and I'm going to put a short helix there as well. So there are 3 long loops in this protein that I'm going to substitute a helix for, so I'll have 7 sheets, just like this one has, and I'll have 3 short helixes. And then the protein completes with a pair of sheets that go down and up on the back side. Okay, so that's my plan. I'm just going to talk about one other way that you can convert long loops to use folded design loops. This is the one that I made before. And you can see I have a short helix at the top here. I have a short helix at the bottom there, but there's only the two. So where's that third long loop? What I did on this smaller design, this outside sheet, instead of bringing it all the way down to the bottom and putting a helix in to get to this sheet here, instead I brought it halfway down and I made just a wrap here. I just wrapped from one sheet face to the next using one helix-shaped segment. And then I added this extra short sheet in place of that long loop. So I had a wrap and then a short sheet here. And then I started up emulating the natural protein again. And I took a penalty for that. Sometimes you can do a sheet wrap like that with one segment of loop and pass the ideal loop filter, but it's hard to do. And so on this one, I took a penalty of 100 points for having a non-ideal loop. And that's the reason that I'm motivated now to try and do the new version without that wrap from the back sheet to the front sheet, using the short helix strategy instead. Uh-oh, someone lost my stream, but he says it's due to, he or she says, due to bad internet. So I hope you find that again. Okay, let's get started. Looking at the protein, I've started from a long straight line. First thing I always do is select the whole thing and change it to sheet and run ideal SS on it. So now anywhere that I leave it as sheet, I know it's already ideal SS'd. I don't have to remember to do that later. And then I'm going to change it back to loop because I'm going to use a recipe to put the secondary structure on. So I know how many sheet and helix segments I had in that earlier design, and looking at the native protein, I estimated which ones I was going to make longer, and I typed them out in a text document. I always have a little text document where I keep notes. Let me put this up on the screen. Now, Mike told me last time I had it right behind the play button, so I'll put it up higher this time. So this is my estimate. E's are sheets, H's are helix, and the dashes are for loops. This is my estimate of how long my sheets and helixes are going to be. And I'm just going to paste that into the protein using a script from Loci Oiling that's very handy. And I might not have it exact, I might have to adjust it, but at least this will be something to start with. And I'm going to actually paste this whole string into the Twitch chat. I'm not sure how easy it will be for people to copy it from there. There it is in the chat. If you are on a Mac, you'll have to be careful to use a program that actually edits plain text. If you use the default text editor, it's going to take those double dashes and turn them into something else. So you'll have to find a program that actually does plain text. But hopefully you'll be able to copy and paste that from the chat. Okay, that's enough of the text document. So let me call up that script from Loci Oiling. It's called SSEdit. I use it all the time. Here we go. Okay, the way Loci has written it, the loops show up as L's, and since I changed my whole protein to loop, it looks like the entire protein is L's. I'm just going to cut that string out and copy my string in. That's the same string I put in the Twitch chat. And then click change. And it's just going to paint those secondary structures onto my protein. And I think my string of secondary structures was a little longer than the protein, so I'm going to run out at the end and I'll have to add a couple. That should be fine. Okay, so starting at the beginning of the protein, I'm going to do a short sheet loop here. I'm going to use the blueprint tool. And when I can, I always use the sheet to sheet loop. I think that's the most common one in nature. My guess is that's why they put it at the top of the list, but I don't know for sure. Okay, and then down here in the blueprint window, I'm going to change the amino acids on that loop. I'm going to make the first one asparagine, which is N. I'm going to make the second one glycine, which is G. N and G can both have a green shape in the Rama map. Let me pull up the Rama map. Oh my gosh. This Rama map has way more color on it than it's supposed to. It's a little bug they haven't fixed yet. But normally the green area of the Rama map is right in here. And both of the segments from the ideal loop are green. So one of them's here, this is the asparagine, one of them's down here, that's the glycine. And both of those amino acids are comfortable being in the green part of the map. The amino acid I was given as a default for the whole protein is isoleucine, which is abbreviated I, and that really doesn't like to be in the green area. So I'm not going to leave that when I put my ideal loop on. Okay, moving along, we'll close that. Hey, I'm streaming. I'm going to use Ideal SS on this helix. And I've made these helixes 8 segments long. Sometimes I use 9, but on the previous design of this protein, 8 seemed to work well, so that's what I'm going with. For starters, I need to put a sheet to helix loop on here from the building blocks, and I'm going to use the first one, which is red-blue. Drop it right on there. Okay. And then the job of this helix is to cross from the front sheet of the protein to the back sheet. So these two are going to be the front. This is going to start the back sheet, and I'm going to need to adjust the angles on those, which I'll do in just a minute. Let's see, I also don't want these to be isoleucine. I'm going to change them both to asparagine. Asparagine is not quite as good as glycine at taking on any shape you want, but it's got a lot of choices of shapes, so I use it a lot for loops. Okay, this is going to be a helix to sheet loop. And I'm going to grab blue-red. For these helixes that are acting as long loops to join the two halves of the sandwich, I've found that the red-blue and the blue-red seem to work pretty well. Okay, now what I've got, oh, let me put in one more ideal loop. This is the sheet-to-sheet loop on the back. I'm going to use that green again. Okay, the wrong part of the protein is moving. That's going to bug me. Let's see, how did we start? Let me look at that natural protein again. Okay, so I want the front sheet to go from bottom left to top right. The loop that I'm replacing with a helix is going across the bottom to the back, and then I want the back sheet to go from bottom right to top left. So they make kind of an X. So let me rotate this a bit more. Okay, I've got the front sheet going from bottom left to top right. That's what I want. And I need to rotate this back sheet so it makes a nicer X relative to the front sheet. So in order to do that, I'm going to adjust these two ideal loops. Let's see, first I'm going to change the amino acids. I'm going to make these two asparagine, and this one glycine. Okay, so I want this loop to be a little flatter. I'm going to freeze one of these. Hopefully that will make this pair of sheets stay still on the screen and make the rest of the protein move. We'll see if that actually works. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And I'm going to pull up the Rama map for adjusting these loops. So in order to rotate this helix clockwise, I'm going to use this loop as a hinge. So this is going to be stationary. These two will be my hinge. And this is the arm that I'm trying to swing a little bit clockwise. And it's just trial and error and moving things a little at a time. Okay, that made it worse. That's better, but it's also swinging it out towards me, which I don't really want. Okay, so that's kind of flattened it and made it swing towards the back. I think that's good enough to go on with. Part of the reason I make this helix 8 or 9 residues long is I want to have 2 complete turns, which requires at least 7 residues. The reason being that this one and this one, well, one of these two, at least one from each complete turn is going to be pointing inwards to the core of the protein, which means hopefully it will stay orange. If the whole helix mutates to blue, then it has no reason to fold up into a helix at that point. So even if it scores well, it won't fold. This is a secret that BCAP shared with us in the blog at some point, or not in the blog, in the forum. So I want to have 2 complete turns so that at least one segment from each turn is going to stay orange by being hidden in the core of the protein. Okay, let me try and rotate this pair of sheets clockwise. I think I said clockwise before when I was rotating the helix. I think, yeah, that was clockwise too. Never mind. Okay, I'm going to use this as my hinge. Try and rotate this up. It's kind of going out rather than up. That's worse. This seems to be better. Maybe a little out would be a good thing. Okay, that's kind of promising. I kind of want to see the flat side of this sheet more, so let me see if I can turn it a little bit. That's worse. This is better. And I'm going to go peek. Okay, hold on. I seem to have, these guys clearly match up. I don't seem to have a sheet partner for this guy. So that's not good. And let me turn on the side chains for a moment. Okay, this one should be facing in, but it's actually facing sideways. I'm going to go look at the earlier version of this protein and see how I handled that. Oh, did I handle that? Yeah, I did. Okay, so this is the helix that I'm sort of copying now. I had the red up high, that's what I ended up with. This blue one. Okay, I'm looking at the wrong Rama map. That's clever. Okay, this is the Rama map for the old design. The red, now this red ended up kind of in default helix position. And this blue ended up to the right of default sheet position. That is not what I did on the new design. Oh well. We'll just see what happens. Okay, and how did I handle the back? Interesting. On the back sheet of this one, the first side chain faces out. I have a blue that's up high a little bit, and the red just above the line, and I ended up with that side chain facing out. So I said blue, where's the blue go? Blue up high a little bit. Red just above the line. And yet this faced out. So can I just twist that and make it face out? Maybe so. Okay. That suggests that my sheet turn is going the wrong way. Let me check that. Okay, on this one, I want the sheet to go up and then turn right and come down the outside. So I think I'm actually good here. This sheet goes up in the back, it turns right and comes down the outside. Okay, that's correct. So hopefully this guy is going to end up with a partner on the left to make sheet bonds with, because he doesn't have a partner over here. I hope that was intentional. I did it. You would think I would know if I did it on purpose, but you know, that's asking a lot. Okay, wait, is that better or worse? Worse. Better. Okay. Okay, so that one's facing away. This one is facing towards the middle, towards us. And I'm going to need a sheet to helix loop. So this helix I didn't use in the earlier design. Just going to curl it up. I had that wrap from back to front instead, so this is going to be a new piece of design. Oh, by the way, I wanted to change, I always change my helixes. Let me select that to leucine. Isoleucines don't like helixes all that much. Leucine is very happy in a helix. Okay, this is going to be, oh, let me change this one to leucine as well. Is that helix the same length on both designs? Yes, it is. And that might have been a reason why I ended up with different loop shapes. If I had had a different length helix, that would cause the loop shapes to be different. But I did measure, well, I counted on the old design, and the helixes were both 8 on the old design. So all 3 of the helixes in this design, I'm going to start with 8 and see if I can make it work. Okay, this second helix I'm going to change to leucine, and then go find a sheet to helix loop. And I'm going to use this red-blue again. Let me find that in the blueprint. Okay. So I'm going to have to rotate this helix. I want this sheet right here to line up next to this one. So I'm going to have to rotate this helix counterclockwise using this loop as a hinge. I'm going to try moving that one. When I'm choosing a hinge, I try to use the loops, obviously, but I try to choose a segment that is, if I'm trying to rotate this either counterclockwise or clockwise through the plane of the computer screen, I want a hinge that's perpendicular to the plane of the computer screen, because I'm going to be sort of twisting that hinge segment. So this one seems to go from front to back. It's kind of perpendicular to the screen. So I'm hoping that one will let me rotate this helix. Give it a try. And that seems to be twisting it more. That's worse. This is better. And I'm running out of blue. I don't think I want to go any further with that one. What about this loop segment back here? That's worse. This is better. Okay, and how are we doing? Wow, these actually are not crashing into each other terribly. That's cool. However, this helix looks like it might not be long enough to get the bottom of the sheet all the way over to here. I wonder if I can achieve that by rotating the back sheet a little bit. So I want to twist the back sheet, and I'm going to be, so it's sort of like rotating it through a plane, a horizontal plane that's perpendicular to me. So this vertical segment might be a good hinge for that. Okay, so that's making the back sheet closer to flat relative to me. I might try even a little more on another segment. Okay. That brings this segment closer to the front, so my helix might be long enough. I need to re-rotate the helix. Before I do that, let's see, it's this one right here. I'm going to start with a new ideal loop, a new blueprint, just to see if that makes it better or worse. Okay, now I want to rotate this counterclockwise. I'm going to try using this one. Gertrude is telling me the first helix might be 9 instead of 8. Quite possible. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You're right. It's 9. Okay, so when I was typing my string, I typed it wrong. Okay, I wonder if I am just remembering wrong and if it was 9 in the original. Let me see. Okay, I can do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, it was 9 in the original. So it was 9 in the original, it's 9 in this one, and I've just been saying it wrong the whole time. So now that makes me wonder what the other ones are. What's this one? This one's 8. I wonder if I need it to be 9. Good eye, thank you. Might have to change that. I'm going to rotate first. So rotating counterclockwise and out towards me a bit. Now this is getting this dot up almost out of the red area into the blue. If the scripts that I run cause it to wander from the red into the blue, then I'm going to get a penalty for a non-ideal loop, because Foldit wants this to be a red-blue loop. Let me think what would happen. So if this turned blue, I'd have straight blues, blue from the sheet, 2 blues in the loop, and then a helix. And this is a sheet to helix. So for sheet to helix, there is a blue, blue, blue loop that can get credit. So it might count it as one of those. It might still give me credit for an ideal loop, even if this guy moves from the red area to the blue. We'll just have to see. Okay. This is where it really shows up that the helixes are different lengths. They start in a similar position. This one ends kind of away from me. This one comes further around, so it's pointing towards me. So we'll try it with 8, and then we might switch to 9. So this is going to be a helix to sheet loop. I'm going to try the blue-red. And that's sort of pointing off into Neverland. I wonder how much I could rotate that. Let's try it. That's worse. So in order to rotate this enough to come into contact with this one, I'm going to have to move that ideal loop out of its comfort zone. So I'm going to take that blueprint off. Let's see, change this one to helix. Use ideal SS on these two. And grab that blueprint again and drop it right here this time. And I have to remember now that all my structures are going to be one off. Okay, this looks much more promising to get this sheet in contact with its neighbor. Let's see, I want to change this helix segment to leucine. I want to go back to my earlier blueprint and make those asparagines. I want to make these two asparagine. Okay. I want this side chain to line up with that one. So I need to bring this end of the helix down a little bit. So I need to rotate the helix a little bit more counterclockwise. And if I remember, this one was getting almost out of the red, so I'm going to try using this one. Okay, that's good. Cool. And then I want to rotate this helix counterclockwise using these two as my hinge. Look at that, I've got a sheet bond already. How are we doing? And I kind of want to rotate this sheet so it's a little flatter relative to me. Can I do that? Not using this one. Undo that. Can I use this one to rotate the sheet? So that's rotating a little bit. Just keep inching along. Okay, so this side chain used to be out almost in front of this residue, and now it's mostly behind it. So I think if I band these, Wiggle will be able to pull them together. Oh, and I remember this is one short. This is one short. This is one short. And so forth. Okay. And let me go ahead and band these. I don't usually band the two that are closest to the loop, because that loop is going to hold them close. And I've got one extra over here. Don't remember if that ends up with a partner or not. We'll just have to see. So this sheet, I had to make it a little bit shorter than this one because of the way that I wanted the side chains to point. I wanted this side chain pointing out because that's what works with this ideal loop. This one was pointing in, so I couldn't line up with it. I had to make the sheet one shorter to line up here. Similarly, at the top, because of the loop that I'm planning to use, I want the side chain to point in, which means it can't match up with this final one. It has to match up with the one before it. If I made it, I could either make it one shorter or one longer, but there's not going to be another sheet on the outside here. So if I made it one longer, there would be no partner to form sheet bonds with the one that sticks out. So I chose to make it one shorter. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to save, because that's a lot of work. I don't want to lose it. What puzzle are we on? 1435. Get my track number in there, and this is a partial arrangement. Waiting to talk to the server. A fine Foldit tradition. My husband calls this little circle that goes around and round in Windows the "you are not important" circle. So Windows is telling me I'm not important. Okay, I didn't realize this was going to be so long. Well, what can we talk about while we wait for my file to save? Oh, it did. It's done. Thank goodness. Okay. I'm going to curl up this helix and change it to leucine. I use a lot of keyboard shortcuts, so you won't see me clicking on these things down here. When I use them, I use the little letter or number in the corner. Just works better for me. Okay. This is going to be a sheet to helix loop. You know what? I bet that helix is going to end up one short as well. We shall see. Sheet to helix. Nope. Oh, there it is. There we go. So the job of this helix, like the others, is to traverse the gap between the front sheet and the back sheet. Now, I'm going to want to pull these sheets closer together during scripting. They're actually, this is the downside of using the helixes, is that they push the sheets far apart, and I want them close together so that I get a good core filter. If they're this far apart in the finished product, the inner side chains will not count as core, and so I'll get a big core penalty. Not to mention, it won't fold up. Let me look at the other one. How did I manage that? So this was the earlier version. So the sheets are kind of twisted, kind of fan shape, which is always good for sheets. And they sort of squeeze together in the middle to form a core. So I hope I'll be able to achieve that with the new one as well. Okay, back to the new one. How long is this helix? It's also 8. Okay, I'm just gonna fix that right now. Okay, I made it 9, and okay, we'll have to extend that sheet when we get to it. Okay, I definitely want to rotate this helix clockwise around a hinge back here. Get rid of these side chains for a minute. We'll try this one for the hinge. I choose this one because at least half of it is perpendicular to the screen. So there's two dimensions in the Rama map, the X and the Y, and they correspond to two different angles in the backbone of the protein. So if I move the dot, I don't remember which is which. There's two stick parts of this one segment of the backbone. And if I move the dot up and down, I'll be twisting around one of those stick parts. If I move the dot left and right, I'll be twisting around the other one of those stick parts. And I never remember which one is which, so I just do trial and error. But there should be some way that I could move the dot that would rotate around this little piece of backbone. Except that's not selected, so now we can try. Okay, so this is kind of going the way I want, but it's also moving away from me. That seems to be worse. Let me try the other loop. Okay, that's kind of also going clockwise, hooray, and away from me, not hooray. So now it's coming towards me, but I'm losing the clockwise progress. Okay, that's making it worse. I can't tell if I made it better or worse. Any votes? Better, worse? That's worse. So the end of it has come up, which I like, but it's pointing off to the right, which is not what I want. I want it to point to the left. Seems like this guy would be a good hinge for that. So it's going to the left, but it's also going back down again. Frustrating. Okay, I'm going to stop working on that and work on this one for a minute to see how far I have to move it. Okay, let's change these to asparagine. I have no idea if I'm saying that right. Maybe it's asparagine. I don't know. Okay, this is going to be a helix to sheet loop. And I'm going to use the blue-red. Yeah, this is going to have to move far to the left. So one way to accomplish a little bit of that might be to move this one clockwise a little around this hinge. And that's going to give the whole sheet more of the fan shape that I like to see. So working with these two loop segments has not made me happy yet. I'm going to try using the first helix segment as my hinge. Again, it's moving left, but it's also moving down. Oh, that's better. Okay, that's just left. Try and bring it back up a bit. So now this segment is pointing up. These other ones, how did they end? Let's see, this is a beginning, this is an end. That's not pointing up, it's pointing flat. This one is not pointing up, it's pointing flat. This one is pointing up. Oh, but I want to go down. These guys go up. Just having a little trouble rotating this all in my brain. I guess I could have copied. In fact, maybe I will do that. Try copying the angles from one of the ones that's working. Okay, let me pull this blueprint off and put a new copy on to reset it to its defaults. Okay. And then I'm going to copy. So this is the sheet to helix loop. There's one of these down here. Got the red up and to the left. I'll move this red up and left. I can drop it right on top of the other one. The blue is down and to the right. Well, let's see, sheet to helix, blue down and to the right, sheet to helix, blue. Okay, they're in exactly the same place. That must mean I didn't move them from the default. Okay, this is actually looking better than what I had before. I don't know what I was doing differently before, but this is kind of going across. So I need to rotate it a bit to stop clashing up here. I need to rotate it counterclockwise around this hinge. If you've got one that works, just copy it. Far enough. I still kind of want this to be higher. Maybe I need to twist this around more. That would be hard because it's connected in two places. Not quite sure how this is going to work. Okay, let's copy this one as well. So this is a helix to sheet loop. This is the first segment, it's blue. This is a helix to sheet. First segment is kind of up and to the right. First segment here. I'll drop it on there, okay. Second segment, right on the line. Second segment here, right on the line. Okay, those apparently didn't get moved. And yet, this is not parallel to that. It's not even close. Is this sheet supposed to attach to that one? Let's consult the old model. Okay, these are the final sheets. So that the one helix goes across the top. It's a blue-red loop. And yes, the sheet that follows it is going to connect to the existing sheets, and the last one is going to come up the outside. So maybe I could copy this loop. Is this 9? This is 9. This blue one is up and to the right. And the red one, oh, this red one is down from the line. There's my top sheet. Top helix. This is the top helix. Okay, this is up and to the right. This I've got on the line. Let me try moving it down. That's making it better. Woohoo! Okay, this is going to line up there. So I kind of need to rotate it. So I need to rotate this sheet a little bit counterclockwise around this hinge. Neither one of these loop segments is perpendicular to the screen, so I'm going to try using the last helix segment as my hinge. Maybe I shouldn't call it a hinge. Maybe I should call it an axis because I'm rotating about it. I don't know. Ooh, that's worse. Much worse. How did that happen? It was going better. That's worse. So it seemed to be getting worse and then it kind of stalled. This is not doing what I expected. Let me undo that. I'm going to try going one further into the helix. Still trying to find an axis that's perpendicular to the screen that I can rotate around. Okay, that's pulling the sheet away from me. That's rotating it the wrong way. That's rotating it more the right way. Okay. Okay, that's close enough. Rubber bands can do the rest. Might as well add some here. And leave the two closest to the loop unbanded. Okay, let me show the side chains. So I want to turn now. I want to turn right, but the side chain is pointing away. That won't work. If I'm going to turn right, the side chain has to point towards me. So this is going to have to be the loop. And this will be sheet. Let's see, it looks like these are still isoleucine. Let me fix that. Okay, then I want a sheet loop right here. Grab the green, and it turns right. Hooray! Okay, and I'm going to change that to N and G. So I ended up let me back up a moment. Okay, I ended up one off in my sheet length. I remember that I made it one shorter on this end because I needed one more for my helix. So that means I was actually intending to go one longer here. Let me do that instead of one shorter. It's going to have a partner right next to it, so it's okay for it to be longer than this sheet right here. Let's try the green on that. So the question is, these guys are hanging out in space right now. Can I bring them in closer to the helix, in a way that these two side chains up here will be part of the core? If they will be part of the core, I want them to stay. If they won't be part of the core, then I'd rather take two segments out of each sheet, because I don't want to have I don't want to have blue, I guess these will still be green, blue. I don't want to dilute the core by having extra side chains up here that are not in the core. It looks to me like if I succeed in rotating this pair of sheets so that it comes close to the helix, it looks like these guys are going to be out and not in. I'm not really sure. See if we can do some of that rotating now. Because I used the green loop here, that pushes this segment behind that one. It pushes it out away from the core. I would be happier if it were more lined up with this one. So I'm going to change from my green loop there to a blue-green sheet loop. The blue-green is less common, I think, but it is flatter. There we go. So that brought this segment closer to the core. It'll be easier to hide it. See if we can twist this a little bit. Just want to get this sheet to where it's going to get hidden. And I'm going to have to make it longer too. Okay, this is clearly inside and not outside, so I'm going to change it to leucine. Actually, that's really crowded in there. I'm going to change it to valine. No, I'm not. I'll make up my mind eventually. Alanine. Okay, why? Because it's crowded. And I want it to be orange, and alanine's small and orange. So I'm going with alanine. Usually for the orange ones, I like to start with something medium to big. So I leave the isoleucines and the leucines because they hold space so that when I start mutating, there will be space for stuff in the middle. But in a place where I can tell it's already crowded, I don't need to hold space. I need to put in something that won't clash much. Okay, I think I'm getting close to being ready to wiggle this. Let's see, I want to make this sheet longer. It looks like this guy might be hidden. This one's going to be exposed. This one, with some creative rubber banding, might be hidden. Not sure I can convince Foldit to leave it that way. Let's go ahead and add some residues here. I'm going to do a quick save. And let's see, got to remember to change my amino acids. So it's a bit of a chore to change the amino acids of all the loops, but if you leave them at isoleucine, when you wiggle, Foldit's going to be trying to change them from their loop shapes to something else. Okay, let's see, this is the blue-green sheet-to-sheet loop. I actually like D for the first one, aspartate, and G for the second, DG for the blue-green. You can use NG, it's not a big deal. I'm just going with my habit. Okay, now we're going to add. How many do we wish to add? 4. Now I'm going to get a penalty for adding residues, but on this puzzle, they have changed the penalty. It used to be 23 points per extra residue that you add on, which was pretty expensive. But they've lowered it on this puzzle to only 16 points, which means I have a pretty good chance of making that up. So because I have more residues, each of them will have some points. And the question is, will they, on average, add more than 16 points? They don't need to have 16 points, because they're also going to increase the scores of their neighbors by a little bit. So each one has to add 16 or more to the total score in order to offset the penalty from the residue count filter. Okay, I want to make these isoleucine to be like the others. I want a rubber band. I'm so happy that they lowered that penalty because I like to make big proteins and I always get a big penalty. Okay, I can unfreeze that guy. So this is ready to shake and wiggle. I can tell, I know already, I'm going to want to bring this back sheet and this front sheet closer together so that I get some core. And the question is, do I want to put rubber bands in now to try and make that happen? Or do I want to wait for a later wiggle? I think I'm going to wait. Okay, let me save this. Okay. And I'm just going to make a note in my little text document of what I saved. What's my score? Minus 365,000. Yay. Okay. Let's get rid of that. So I'm just going to scan along here, make sure I changed all the loops to something loopy. If you don't want to think about what the loops should be, just make them all asparagine. It's as good as anything to go on with. I wouldn't make, some people make them all glycine. I don't like to do that because if it's a glycine, Foldit will feel free to make it any shape that glycine can have, and it might get stuck in a shape that no other sidechain can have. So once you make it a glycine, it might get stuck as a glycine. So I'd rather make it asparagine, which has lots of shapes that it can happily be in, and have it not get stuck as a glycine unless it really needs to be one later. I don't know if that made any sense. Okay, what am I doing? I need to set my clashing importance. For the shake, I'm going to set it to 20%. I do my early work usually at 20%. Let's get that shake going. Because I feel like it gives the protein more flexibility than if I were working at 100%. A lot of people on my team, Anthropic Dreams, like to start at low CI early in a protein, and that's true on all different kinds of puzzles, not just design ones. There are plenty of people who never work at low CI. You know, they just work at 100% all the time, and they beat me regularly. So, you know, use your discretion. I got to keep an eye on the time. Quarter till, okay. That's enough shaking. Well, it's still moving. Give it a minute more, a moment more. Okay, good enough. And I'm going to freeze the structures so they don't get mangled by the wiggle, but I'm going to unfreeze the segment next to the loop on each one for flexibility. Enzyme, hey, nice to see you. Beating loci is always a good thing. Yes, it is. A good objective. Yeah, I don't beat him often, nor you. Okay, this looks good. Because I'm in the minus hundreds of thousands, I can't work at 20% because it'll all fly apart. So I'm going to go down to 5% and do a quick save and set recent best and hit the wiggle. See what happens. These don't fly apart. So what I want to see is sheet bonds forming, besides the ones I already had. I see a few. I also was sort of wishing that the front sheet and the back sheet would maybe squish closer together. That doesn't seem to be happening. This might not work out. So when I had only one helix on the bottom and one helix on the top, they could rotate. The whole thing ended up being sort of a quadrilateral, and the sides could rotate so that this face and this face could come close together. But now that I have two helixes up on top, these hinges here are not as free to rotate. So I may have a lot of trouble getting these sheets close enough together to form a core. That would be sad. They're getting kind of close on the back. Well, that's not the back. So the way I started out, well, I don't know which is the front. I've got it all turned around. I'll just turn it around some more to confuse you. Okay. The way I started out, this is the beginning. Yeah. So the three strands were the front. I had two helix on the bottom, one on the top. That's the way I started out. Okay. What's happening with the score? I'm not in the hundreds of thousands negative anymore. I'm going to go up to 20%. See what happens. So if these two are a little too close together to form bonds, they might scoot a little apart now that I upped the clashing importance. If they don't, when I weaken these rubber bands a bit, then they might spread out a little bit and get good bonds. What's happening over here? This pair is bonding. This pair is bonding. This pair is having trouble lining up. Foldit does not agree with my choice of which pieces should be close together. So I could keep trying to insist that these rubber bands are right, or I could go with the flow and let the sheets slide relative to one another. I think I'm going to do the latter. So I'm going to stop this wiggle, restore recent best, and I'm going to change these bands. Let's see, this now goes to that, because the sheets want to go, they want to line up differently. They want to have a register shift. That seems to be the protein jargon word for it. I didn't make it up. Okay, so changed the bands. Now it's going to try and move this pair of sheets up relative to that pair, which is where it was sort of trying to go anyway. And let's just, let's see, reset recent best. That's probably not necessary. Do another quick save and restart the wiggle. Golly, this is moving slowly. Maybe if I get rid of this, it'll help. Okay, I got sheet bonds right away, so the register shift was a good idea. It wasn't my idea, it was Foldit's idea. All right, nice to see you, Mortier. I'm glad you stopped by. Enjoy your meeting. Oh, enzyme. Oh, your pun. It pains me. I'm not even going to try and say that out loud. Nothing wrong with it. Just, yeah. Okay. Ouch. What's happening over there in global? I see it's lit up. Just people saying hi. I guess it would have been friendly of me to announce the stream in global and not just in vet chat. Sorry I didn't do that. Okay, how are we on time? It's 10 till 6. I have a kid to pick up in 40 minutes, so I gotta watch the time. Okay, this is moving really slowly and I'm tired of waiting, so I might just stop it at this point. But it's still gaining. So hard to give that up. Okay, it's kind of gaining a lot, so I'm going to let it run some more. It says I'm rank 74. Okay, because I have slightly more than 0 points. What's happening with the filters? Ideal loop filter, I have lost 200 points. Why is that? It doesn't like this loop, and it doesn't like the end of the protein. The end has one extra segment. If I chop that off, it'll probably be fine. This loop, so this piece of sheet does not have a sheet bond to its neighbor, and that is probably what's making this loop get penalized. Not positive, that's my guess. Looks like I've got, yeah, I added 4 residues altogether, so I have minus 64 for that. How's the core? Minus 625. Okay, that's really, really bad. I think they're 25 apiece, so that means I'm 25 side chains short of a good core. All right. Definitely going to have to work on that. Okay, wiggle is done. Let me save that. What was that? First wiggle. Frozen. I tend to save all my proteins after the same steps. Like I always save after first wiggle frozen. And it means that I can compare scores across tracks or even across puzzles. Okay, so sheet bonds look good, core looks terrible, ideal loops need some help. Let's unfreeze and turn on side chains. Now, one thing I could do that would potentially improve the core, I could extend this sheet and wrap it around to contact this sheet, or vice versa. I could extend this one. No, I couldn't, because this one's providing a partner for that one. I don't want to bend it over and wrap it over there. But I could bend this one and wrap it over here, which would improve the core, but I would almost certainly get a penalty for the loop. It would be a non-ideal loop. There have been a few designs I've done where I got credit for a good loop when I wrapped like that, but more often than not I get a penalty. Okay, how are we going to make these things closer together? Looks to me like this side chain could slot in between these two into this empty spot right here. Okay, and this one could slot into the corresponding space. I don't know if I need two bands over there. I think of these as core bands, bands that I add to improve the core. These guys are actually kind of close together, which is nice. But the middle is far apart, which is not so good. How am I going to make the middle get closer together? I'm going to have to add one or more bands in the middle. Okay, looks to me like the side chain of this segment could fit into that space, or possibly this space. I'm going to go with this one. Okay, so I'm going to add a band there. Try and pull those together. This side chain, well, that one and this, no, not that one. These two side chains both seem to be aiming for this space right here. They can't both be in it. If I put a rubber band from this segment to this segment, it's going to pull this edge closer to there. I would have to sort of rotate this sheet out a little bit, which I could do. Yeah, I'm not going to do that right now. Okay, is there something I could do to the helixes to improve the core? Like, what if this side chain kind of headed for this slot? Would that be good? Don't know. I'm going to try it. Also, some, like this, so this side chain is crowded, and this sheet can't get closer to that helix while it's in there. So when I start mutating, if it becomes something smaller, that'll help a little bit. That'll help this part and that part, for example, get closer together. And there's others like that, this whole row right here. The side chains are kind of in the way of things getting closer together. I'm actually going to wait on that. I'm going to try just with these two core bands only, see what we get. Okay, now that everything's unfrozen and I'm working at 20%, I don't really want full strength bands because they are strong enough to pull the sheets out of shape. So I'm going to decrease the band strength to 0.5. And let's just do a shake and wiggle and see what we get. See if we get any of those many core points back. And you know, this might turn out to be a failed design. If I can't get the sheets close enough together to get a decent core, then it'll be a failed design. But it was worth a try. Okay, enough shaking. I'm going to turn off the side chains and wiggle. I could, since this is in general wiggling pretty slowly, I could turn off some of the filters when I wiggle and it would go faster. The ones that aren't going to change during the wiggle don't need to be on. Like my secondary structure is not going to change. I could turn that one off. Residue count is not going to change. I could turn that one off. Ideal loops I would want to leave on because that can change during the wiggle. Seems like there's another SS design is not going to change, so I could turn that one off to make the wiggles go faster. but I didn't. Okay, I'm up to minus 475 on the core filter. That's some progress, but not a lot. Let me turn on show on the core filter. Ooh, ow, oh, that's bad. So all these inward facing side chains, I wish were orange, which would mean they're counted as part of the core. Instead they are green, which means, well, they're sort of like core, but not good enough. So I want all those green ones to turn orange. The only way to do it is to bring the sheets closer together. I just don't know if that's going to be possible. One. How are we doing on time? Okay, I'm going to have to leave pretty soon. So in a couple minutes, I'm going to bring the stream to a close. Once this wiggle is done, my next step would be to mutate, and I usually do my first mutate on clashing importance 20%, then I do a shake and wiggle, mutate at another clashing importance, I usually go up to 85%, shake and wiggle, then a super low clashing importance mutate, shake and wiggle, and then a higher one, and then shake and wiggle. But my shake and wiggles are all going to be at, actually they're not all going to be at 20%. After that first mutate, I'm going to push the clashing importance up to 50%. With design puzzles, 20% changes how close all the pieces are to each other too much. And so if you get a good set of amino acids for 20%, it's often not good at full CI. So 50% is my compromise. So all the shakes and wiggles will be at 50% after that first mutate. And it's possible that with mutates, the core will be able to pull closer together, and I'll get credit for more of these inward-facing side chains. And I just won't know till I try it. I won't know if I can get a good core on this design until I have worked with it some more. What also concerns me is the ideal loop filter. Okay, this is lacking sheet bonds. That's why this one is bad. This one has acquired a sheet bond right there to the neighbor, and yet I have a bad filter, a bad ideal loop, a non-ideal loop with a filter penalty. So that worries me. I'm not sure how to fix that. It's very unlikely that I'm going to get a bond here. Yeah, I think it's impossible to get another sheet bond here. So if this one's not enough, well, I could get one from this corner to that corner, maybe, if I tried real hard. Oh, I seem to be at, yeah, the wiggle's done. So it might be that by bringing these guys closer together, I could get a sheet bond, let's see, from right there to right there. And that might be enough to give me credit for this being a sheet, and then I might get my ideal loop back here. I say back, it's been non-ideal since I started wiggling, but it started ideal when I dropped the blueprint on. Oh, another thing I need to do that I sometimes forget to do until later, I need to pull the blueprint constraints off. Just, pull these rectangles off before my next wiggle. And that'll let the loops be more flexible and accommodate better to what I'm trying to do. So that's my start on my, what was that thing called? Where's that natural? Fibronectin type 3 domain. Okay, this is my attempt to make one of those. And as I say, I don't know if it's going to be successful in the long run. I have enjoyed having you all here. If you have questions after I stop the stream, go ahead and put them in the Foldit chat. And I'll be hanging around there for a few minutes before I run out to be Mom's taxi service. Okay, I guess I should save this. So this was my second wiggle, and it was unfrozen. Enzyme, I noticed when I was watching your stream that you pull the blueprint constraints off immediately after using them. I thought that was very interesting. I might try that. Might try that on a future puzzle. Didn't think of doing it on this one. I worry, since I'm changing, you know, I use the Rama map to change the ideal loops, and I'm worried that if the constraint is not on during the first wiggles, that they'll wiggle right out of being ideal. But I won't know till I try. So I'll give that a try pretty soon. Okay, thanks everyone for coming by. And I was glad to see, I have 5 viewers. That's the most I've ever had. I'm excited. So I will see you guys around. Thanks for being here.